Recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago and beyond again.
And beyond also.
This is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. This is episode 621 of Cognitive Dissonance. See, so we got a guest, buddy.
We do.
We have a guest in a very special and unique way.
Yeah. We are doing a video recording today, and the cool thing is everybody got to watch him be quiet during that.
I feel strangely married to your show. I think I hit 600 right around the time you hit episode 600. Yeah. So I think we're just sort of like crawling along together, and occasionally one of us rolls down the window. You know, hey, how's it going? How's show number 625, right? So,
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Seth is here to talk about his new book, and his new book is called Christianity Made Me Talk Like an Idiot. And I want to say, Seth, bought the book on Audible. Of course, because you got to buy the book on Audible. If you're going to buy the book, that's why we tell people to buy the audiobook. Because you can hear Tom read our audiobook. But hearing Seth read this book to you, it's outstanding. It's just outstanding. I got to say, excellent book.
I've had some people ask me, who narrates your stuff? And I stop and I'm like, well,
and you're like, have you fucking
I'm a professional
heard me?
broadcaster, right? But I don't know about you guys, because you guys know what it's like to publish a book, right? But I'm not at the point where I trust someone else with the material. Is that weird? Like, there's a temperature to the way the delivery should sound. Right. There's a tone, the pauses, the inflections. I know how it should sound, and I'm terrified if I gave it to somebody else that I would hear like a foreign object, something that I did not write. Like, what is this thing?
There's a dog barking in the background. A siren goes off or whatever.
I will tell you a boring story about when I used to read poetry. So I'm a poet, and I used to do these readings in the city. And so you'd get together and, you'd basically just wait your fucking turn and pretend you were listening to other people. And then it was your turn, and everybody would pretend they were listening to you too. But what we would do occasionally is everybody at the beginning of the night, the organizer might say, okay, everybody's going to put their shit on the table. And then when you come up, you're just going to grab somebody else's material and you're going to perform somebody else's material. And it was actually a really fun exercise that made you a better reader and a better performer of written material. You had to do it on the spot in front of a crowd. And I always enjoyed doing the performance, but it was super weird when your material was read in a tone, in a cadence, with different pauses, and all of a sudden that material could almost mean something entirely different. And it was I can't imagine all the time and work and energy, and then having somebody else read an entire. I would like, a fucking poem is, a page. And I'd be like, you read it wrong. You read the whole thing wrong. It's not, God damn it. Like, get out of my way. Give me the mic. A whole book.
Like with you in poetry, like I just picture Tom up there, and he's just like, he's snapping his fingers, between the, hey, it's great poem going on here tonight.
You don't know what Chicago poetry's like. They scream at you. It's aggressive, the most aggressive poetry readings you've ever been to. They just yell at each other. It's crazy.
There's a reason I fit in. It was just belligerent, just grousing. It was just belligerent grousing.
I was brought on to read Dr. Josh Bowen's book called The Atheist Guide to the Old Testament. And, he's got a PhD in like ancient Sumerian. And most of the book is Sumerian towns, regions, kings, princes. And so, it's easily the most difficult voiceover job I've had in my life. And I told him so. I'm like, I'm honored to be a part of your project. Jesus Christ. What the hell? What are you doing to me, Josh? So I had him on. Essentially, I would text him the Sumerian king's name, and I would wait, and he would read into the audio text. He would read back the pronunciation. I would stop. I would make a note, write it out phonetically times 500 until the book was finally done. But people don't think about that stuff. They don't think about the mispronounced words when you see something only in print and your brain has always pronounced it wrong. And then it comes time to say it out loud. And you're like, well, hell, is it potpourri or potpourri or potpourri? What
for
is
the
that
first
word?
for the first 6 months, Tom and I called it the Mueller report.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No.
So Seth, let's talk about your book. I'm really enjoying it. I gotta reading this. I'm an ex-believer, right? So I grew up a Catholic. I have a lot of the same memories that you sort of talk about in the book. It's a pretty vulnerable topic, right? You're kind of saying I believed in something that was really false, and I feel a little stupid now. Was it a vulnerable experience for you? Was it liberating?
Well, people have asked me, who are you? I gave a speech based on part of the book recently at Iowa State University, okay? And inevitably, we had some Christians come to listen. And of course, by the end of 45 minutes, as I am just blasting through the crazy stuff that I used to believe, wild, wacky, culty Christian traditions that I had once normalized that I talk about in the book. Communion, right? We're eating flesh, we're drinking blood. In the Christian church, it's totally normal. In the Catholic Church, they think you're actually cannibalizing Jesus because it transformed into flesh and blood and all those things. But, when you're raised around it and it's your normal, you just get used to it. And then you hear about Heaven's Gate or some other cult, and you're like, those people believe some crazy shit. How can those people ever fall?
Yeah.
And I'm coming to a point, but Heaven's Gate had that wackadoodle theory that if they committed suicide, they would go and rendezvous with the spaceship which was traveling behind the Hale-Bopp comet. And we in the church were like, that's the craziest stuff I've ever heard. But if you read the Christian end time story, we actually outgate Heaven's Gate. Right? I mean, we've got 200 million horsemen coming down from the sky, and a third of the planet's killed, and the whore of Babylon is riding a dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns. Now, holy God, but if Heaven's Gate had been pitching this stuff, I'd have been like, that's crazy.
Yes.
Who could ever believe such nonsense? If you're raised around it, it's your normal. So with the book, I am sort of exposing my own vulnerability. I'd like to think I've given myself a little more latitude in the fact that I was brainwashed as a kid. I was just straight up indoctrinated, never given a choice, never told I could do my own thinking, threatened with hell. But as I tell my story now, I make sure to say I wasn't an idiot. Like I was not, my IQ did not change from then to now.
Right.
And I think a ton of really intelligent believers have in their brains what I call the place where the weird shit lives, right? It's just bizarre. This is how you find PhDs who believe in railians, right? Human beings have always done what human beings do. And I'm really hoping that I will sort of end up in the path of somebody who's starting to question. They're more and more dissatisfied. They're starting to finally tap on the glass. Wait a minute, I'm not satisfied with this stuff. The answers I'm getting make no sense. And maybe they'll stumble upon this and feel affirmed and doubting the sense of it all. I don't know if that's how it's going to play out, but that was my goal. So.
This is something I've been thinking about for a while now. And my wife and I were just having this conversation the other day. I'm very, very curious. When you say you were a believer, this is going to be, I don't know exactly how to phrase this question properly, but how much did you really believe? Like, did you think it was true the same way you thought, like, a can of Coke is real? Did you think it was real in the same way?
I mean, not if it was New Coke. New Coke was never real to me.
But you know what I mean?
New Coke was a false god.
I have a hard time understanding how real is for believers. Is it as real in your mind as the solid objects of the earth and the fact of gravity? Was it that real, or was it a different kind of real?
It's hard to describe. I lived a devoutly believing Christian life, but I also, if I was to be honest with myself, had tethered myself to the real world. I genuinely believed that God had counted the hairs on my head and totally cared about me and wanted to divinely protect me. At the same time, I would lock my doors at night, and I would, my sisters were given a can of mace to put on their keychain to take out just in case. And so, we lived this. It wasn't just lip service, though. I mean, we really did think when we die, we'll go to heaven. Grandma's is in heaven. One day we'll all be reunited. And And I was a literalist. I mean, there was an Adam, there was an Eve, there was a Noah, there was an ark, there was a Jesus, and there will be a rapture. Jesus will literally come in the sky, and there will be a literal trumpet that sounds. And so, but you got to put it in this context, Tom. I mean, I'm 4 years old, right? I'm 4.
Right.
The same people who fed me and sheltered me and taught me about the rest of the world lumped all the Jesus batshittery in with all the other stuff I needed to survive. And as a child, I just couldn't partition that stuff out. It was all just the same. Then you add a reinforcement culture where we never associated with anybody who disagreed. Everybody, well, of course, everybody's a Christian. We went to Christian churches. We had Christian youth group, Christian music, Christian apparel, Christian culture, Christian reinforcement everywhere. And so I was never challenged. And, that's why it took me long decades to finally say, hey, wait a minute. Did donkeys really speak Hebrew in the book of Genesis? I'm embarrassed to say it, but that's how long it took me.
That's an interesting point. So you're not let's roll back to a newly atheist Seth. When was the moment? So I know when I shed religion, it was a lot of anxiety for me. I had a lot of anxiety about, just like death and mortal existence and things like that. And I think I might have hit it at a weird time in my life. So I didn't really think about it too much. But at a certain point, you realize, holy shit, that was like a blood god. What the hell was I thinking? Do you remember the moment we were just like, what the hell was I thinking?
For me, it was a long journey. I always like to say it was 2 major events and then about 1,000 small ones. It was just mostly getting the courage to keep asking, because man, when you believe that torture in hell is awaiting the non-believer, I mean, that's a huge mechanism for controlling people, and some never get over it, man. They carry that with them for the rest of their lives. Logically, they know it's crap. But emotionally, they're so wounded and scarred and damaged that they have a hard time letting go. And, when I really began to question, and then I would ask the experts, quote unquote, to help guide me through, well, how does this make sense? And the more answers I got, the less sense it made.
Yeah.
That was traumatizing, because I'm like, wait, this isn't helping. They're actually pushing me further away. But, I couldn't sleep. My gut was in a knot all night. My whole life was falling apart. I didn't know who I was. What are my values? What do I think? Yeah. What's real? What's not? What will I lose? And, that's a big question. Will my parents shun me? Will my siblings talk to me? Will my religious employer fire me? And, that was a rough row. And I think, that's why I never take for granted people who say, well, I'm not sure, I'm on a journey. I always tell them, take your time, take your journey. Don't ever let anybody push you where you don't want to go until you're ready. I want to encourage you that it's okay to take the journey, but you do this on your terms for your reasons. And I've sort of been beating that drum for the last 12 years. So
you made a comment about culture, about Christian culture. And I was thinking about that while you were talking, that I wonder how much, like, there's the belief set, right? And then we all know at this point, it's preaching to the choir, that the more you interrogate that set of beliefs, the less it can possibly hold up to any of that interrogation, right? And so, but that's the easy stuff. That stuff, the sort of intellectualism and the logic, to your point, that stuff is kind of the easy stuff. You interrogate it, it starts to fall apart fairly readily under any interrogation. I mean, the Old Testament and New Testament aren't even compatible with each other. So any reasonable interrogation of that religion doesn't work. And it doesn't work like right away. But that cultural element, that social element, that familial element, is that tied necessarily to belief itself? Or do you think that sort of reinforcement mechanism exists outside of the sort of logical belief? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think a donkey ever spoke Hebrew, but I think these things are true in the sense that I love my family and my family believes them, and I want to be a part of this cultural mindset.
No, I think that's a hugely astute observation. I think
that's why I made it.
The vast, vast, vast majority of Oh shit! Did I just validate him? Is he going to make that his ringtone or something?
You did.
Great, wonderful. No, think about it. Most of the people that we run into. In fact, I would wager almost all of the people we run into who would call themselves Christians are theologically illiterate.
Yeah.
I mean, and they'll tell you, well, I don't really know who wrote the book of Genesis. Hell if I know. 10 Commandments. Most people can't name even 6 of them. Any of the theological arguments that a lot of these sort of bigwig fat cat apologists come up with, the average everyday cultural Christian, they're not interested, right? But Christianity is the friends they have, the music they listen to, the community they enjoy, their Sunday routine, the music they love and share together, their support group, their divorce recovery, addiction recovery.
Their shared values.
And so when you've got tribal connections in that way, it goes beyond just the idea. And it does feel good to feel validated. We're right. Everybody else is wrong. We'll live forever in heaven. Everybody else is going to hell, those types of things. I'm not saying all Christians celebrate that, but there's a kind of validation that you get a rush from,
Right.
I'm right when so many others are wrong. How fortunate am I, kind of thing. But I did a whole speech on this. I mean, Christianity is not relevant theologically. So it has essentially evolved to be relevant culturally, which is why we see all of these cultural reinforcements that have nothing to do with the verses of the Bible. But you'll see the cross tattoos and the Christian jewelry, and you'll hear the Christian radio stations, and you have Christian singles group and youth group and child care and fun activities and sports teams and all these other things. Make them all Christian, and people don't really know. They don't want to know, but they do feel like they belong. And man, that's tough to walk away from. And I think if we're going to challenge this religiosity, we have to create a net for people to fall into. We're not asking them just to walk away from a bad idea. In many ways, we're asking them to potentially walk away from an entire network of support that they've known their entire lives.
Did you go into like some of the humanist church type stuff that happens around? Did you transition into that, or did you quit cold turkey with that community?
Well, I took a cursory look at many of the other religions. I mean, it's not like I was going to become a devout Muslim. I mean, I'm a white bread, corn-fed, Jesus town, Tulsa, Oklahoma Christian. I'm not. You're not going to see me at a mosque. That was not a natural segue for me. But I did look into other religions, and I very quickly realized that they are sort of doing an interpretive dance to the same tune, right? They each had a deity, they each had a villain, they each had a sacred text or holy book, they had a posthumous existence, blah, blah, blah. All that. I first came out as an atheist it was 2 years after I started my channel. I did the Thinking Atheist behind the scenes without ever showing my face because I was terrified that my boss was going to find out and fire me.
Well, thankfully, you don't have a distinctive voice, and nobody
would know.
You're right. You're right. I mean, I sound like everybody else. Thank goodness for that. But finally, I thought, well, fuck it. I'm going to pull the plug. I'm tired of being in the shadows. And so they scheduled an event in Tulsa in 2011 and asked if I would speak. And I reluctantly agreed, but I said, fine, let's just do it. And it was at a Universalist church, one of those Unitarian Universalist church. They opened the doors wide open. They had 300 atheists pack the place. We had a ball. And for that reason, I'm hugely thankful for the Unitarian Universalists. They make me a bit crazy because they sort of treat as equal all ideas that walk in the door. Yeah. I had a Unitarian minister on the show years ago, and I'm like, I appreciate your inclusiveness. But I mean, if a flat earther walks in and says that the earth has corners and cats could push their toys off the edge of the earth, right? If somebody actually said that, are you so inclusive that no one in your church is prepared to look at them and say, that's factually untrue? And she wouldn't answer the question.
Wow.
She's like, that's a lively question. It's something I think worth discussing. And I'm like, holy shit. No, it's a flat earther. That kind of thing. That's my only gripe with the Unitarian Universalists. But overall, one experience I've had with that sort of broad network of everything and nothing religions is that they have opened their doors and been kind and welcoming to people like me. And I'm hugely thankful for that.
It strikes me like I totally agree. The UU church is too like their arms are
Wishy-washy.
their arms are open so wide that there's plenty of stuff they're hugging that's just nonsense.
Right.
It's just absolutely
Just wrong.
fucking crazy bread bullshit. But
Yeah.
but like, one thing it strikes me that they get right is they divorce, I think, the idea of community from the sort of illogic of whatever it is that brings people together. It strikes me as in functional ways not much different than a Trekkie convention. Everybody knows it's not true, but it's nice to get together. It's nice to agree on the clothes.
It's cosplay religion.
Yeah, but is religion kind of in 2022? Religion feels very often like Trekkie convention shit. It's like, yeah, we're all here. We're enjoying this moment together. Right. We've agreed upon this uniform. We've agreed upon this sort of mythology. None of us really think this happened, but we also don't think that it not happening is very important. The important thing is being here and enjoying it together.
Right.
And the UU
in
church
theory,
seems to get that.
I like the idea in theory of, let's make it an arena of ideas. Bring what you got. We'll hear you out and we'll talk about it. And I think that's totally fair. But again, the one criticism I have is I think at some point an open mind is meant to close on something, not to be welded shut forever. But if you look at flat Earth theory, you should be able to discard that and just say, all right, let's move on, next, and spend your time, energy, and focus on better ideas. But, overall, I appreciate the attitude and the inclusivity of the UUs for sure.
Well, the problem with an arena is that the arena without a battle or a winner.
It's got to have robot bots fight each other. That would be amazing. Religious robots that fight each other to see who wins, whose religion is the best.
We can't air this because that's our $1 million idea.
Greatest thing I've ever. That's amazing.
I'm afraid to comment.
Show.
That's what we need.
I'm afraid to comment because I've already been banned from Facebook for 30 days for hate speech.
Poor thing.
So if I comment about using battle bots on Christians or on UU people, I know that Facebook's just going to shut me the hell down.
What Seth did to get banned was there was a guy who did something horrible, and Seth said, "This guy did something horrible," and then they said, "You did something horrible," and they banned him. I'm not very far off here, am I?
No, and this is a chain. Now, I can't tell if these are religious malcontents or trolls who are falsely flagging, and so then the bots kick in, or if it's just an algorithm problem, who really knows? And Facebook customer service is just a fucking unicorn. Doesn't exist. No way to get a hold of anybody.
Probably does if you're buying data, but not if you're using Facebook.
The thing is that you're not the customer. Yeah. Like, I think if an advertiser calls Facebook, they get an answer, right? Like, Joe, I use this for free, doesn't get shit.
After the January 6th insurrection, we had a politician come forward, a Republican politician, talk about how, he saw the footage and to him it looked like it was nothing more than what you might see at an average tourist party or a tourist event. And so I posted a meme that showed the riots inside and the chaos, and it said, "Show us where the gift shop is," right? It was tweaking this guy. Right. I'm just tweaking the guy who was there cowering behind a desk, who later just totally wanted to rewrite history. Right. Facebook said that's hate speech, and I got a 3-day ban. Then I said something about how I think it's ironic that Christians get so mad about acknowledging that they are animals. We're all primates. We are all connected. We're all part of the animal kingdom and connected to all life. Well, I don't know if Facebook didn't like the phrasing, but what it heard was, Seth says Christians are animals. I've insulted them.
And we are vegetables or minerals, goddammit.
Yes. So then Emmett Meta posted a video clip of hate pastor Jonathan Shelley, who's saying the most awful, bigoted, hateful things about homosexuals, as I recall. And I post this to expose hate speech. And Facebook says, aha, we will now give you a 30-day ban for hate speech.
Oh, good grief.
Someone hate speeched, and he posted a hate speech, and they said, "You're the hate speecher." That's exactly what happened.
And, I in my mind, part of me would like to just divorce Facebook and move on. In a perfect world, I'd like to be able to use a different platform. I've got Twitter, et cetera. But if you have a few 100,000 people as part of a Facebook community that's been established for 12 years, they use it to get content. They use it to know when the shows come out. They use it to connect with each other. Then it's not quite so simple as, screw Facebook, I'm going to pull the plug. Well, it's not that easy for me.
Yeah, well, you would leave all those people high and dry.
Yeah.
Like
they'd have to go to Parler or Gab, and, like all the MAGAs.
It's interesting because we covered some stories very recently about this, and the too strong approach of taking people who are either debunking or decrying this awful stuff off is a bad call by these organizations. Yeah. And the too weak approach of just letting all content fly by is also bad. And the problem is that it's a money problem. They just don't want to spend the money to make a better algorithm and very, very often they don't want to spend the money because they know it's going to mean less users. And they want to have as many eyes on that data as they possibly get. They want to get as much data as they can. They want to get as many eyeballs as they can staring at their screen. And that's super important to them. And so you getting a 30-day ban for this sort of thing is one of those examples of them just having a algorithm or something, some system that just makes it so easy for them to just, ban somebody who's doing the right thing. You're out there trying to say, that's hate speech. Holy shit, we shouldn't have that.
Right.
Yeah. I was a little worried about the book title, right? Christianity made me talk like an idiot. You've got Christianity and idiot in the same sentence. Sure. And I thought, will the algorithms decide that I'm being hateful to Christians? And of course, I think we all agree that people, in most cases, people get respect. Ideas have to earn it, right? And Christianity is an idea. Yeah. And it's going to have to put up or shut up. And so I can tackle Christianity without apology, and I should be just fine. But we shall see.
The book itself is just a litany of all the dumb things you used to believe, and it's sectioned out in a lot of different places. I'm curious, is there one that really just strikes you as super funny, something that you used to believe or that Christians in general believe that you think now you're just like, this is too hilarious?
Well, there's one I talk about in the book that I actually thought was hilarious at the time. Now, I said that I believed that Jesus was literally coming back. The skies will split, the trumpet sounds, and everybody shows up, and Jesus appears looking like Yanni in the sky with puffy clouds and gold light and whatnot,
Locusts with
and
armor.
We all levitate up into the sky, and he takes us out to a big shindig, a big kegger somewhere in space. I believe that, right? I believe that. But I was at my grandmother's funeral, and we were outside for the last part of the service, and Mom was totally agitated. She was totally really upset. And what's going on with Mom? Why is she so freaked out? And it was brought to my attention that they had faced the casket west. And in Christian tradition, you're supposed to face the caskets east, because when Christ returns, he will arrive as a lightning bolt comes from the east, is seen throughout the sky or something. Yeah.
If you go, wait a minute, don't we bury these things?
I shit you not. If you go to a cemetery that is, I was going to say loaded with Christians, it sounds kind of like if it has Christian, if you find an overtly Christian culture with a cemetery, you will notice that the graves almost universally, all the Christians are facing east. And this is part of a Christian tradition. Specific. It's based on a scripture that I'm paraphrasing poorly now, but as lightning strikes, is seen from the east to the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. And so in Christian tradition, you're supposed to be faced toward the big event.
Face meaning your feet, so that your face is, because you're pointed up.
Oh no, you are just scratching the surface of logistical problems, right?
Because I'm trying to make some sense.
Tom, it's like an ejector seat. Okay, so hold on, let me explain it. So when you're laying in the coffin, it's like an ejector seat, right? And a big spring goes, and it shoots you through the air in the correct direction. Okay, so they're built like that. That's why coffins are so expensive, guys. It's like $9,000 for a coffin. You have to have like an ejector mechanism on it. That's not cheap. You don't just make that.
Now when you
beyond
say
the whole idea,
you should feel stupid, Tom.
Beyond the idea that a Christ who would bend space and time to come and retrieve his children would consider a shoulder turn too much trouble during the occasion.
Get rid of that guy.
We have this whole idea that grandma would need to be facing west or facing east to orient herself for Jesus's return,
where she won't notice,
based on Oklahoma. Like Christ is coming back east of Oklahoma. Like it wouldn't be Jerusalem.
I mean, everything is east of everything else on a sphere. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's east. right? It's going to be.
Is it
Like east of what? East of where? What about
Okay.
the people who were located directly north and south? I mean, are they host? I mean, logistically, the entire story falls apart.
Well,
So,
wait a minute.
that's one of those things that it's just insane.
I have another bizarro world follow-up, and this is the stuff I love, because any interrogation of these ideas,
it just falls apart.
But I know there's no answer to this, but I have to ask it anyway, because now I'm just fucking curious. I guess I didn't realize that Christians were hung up on like the body itself, its disposal, and its intactness. So like
It's a zombie
Right.
apocalypse.
So, because immediately I'm like, well, what about people that die whose bodies are utterly destroyed? I mean, like, let's say I'm burned in
Sure,
a fire and
yeah.
I'm just a pile of
You
ashes.
get squished by something or
or I
whatever.
get
yeah.
smacked. Like, how do I face a direction if I'm just
Sure. If it's a closed casket.
right? I'm just
Yeah.
smushed to bits.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of horrible ways people's bodies get
Sure.
mangled up. So, like, there's like it's fine if you die in one piece and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna lay him in the ground and I guess angle him slightly so he's facing something other than up, and then they'll notice from underground that a lightning bolt was in the east of Oklahoma. But fucking
Amazing.
But like, what if you just get fucking vaporized somehow or smashed?
Well, Tom, you make an astute observation there. Now, I talk
Again.
about this. I talk about this in my book.
Two in a
that
row.
it's not just the people who were like, vaporized in a thermonuclear blast, that kind of thing. I'm also interested. What about the people who the matter in their bodies has been reconstituted into other things? All right.
Yeah.
What happens to those things? Do they just break apart and then the matter grows little matter legs and runs back over to the original guy?
We rot to nothing at
Yeah.
some point.
Well,
Like,
embalming
yeah.
slows that, but yeah.
right, but like billions
it's
of
a
people were
weird
buried
thing.
that weren't embalmed.
Yeah.
Like
Well, they're
you just
fucked,
get
Tom.
hung
they're
up
just
on
shit
dumb
out of
shit.
luck.
You totally get hung up on dumb shit. And again, you're right. Even a cursory look at it, the entire thing falls apart. We're talking about, what does God reconstitute the bodies? What about the people already in heaven? Are they supposed to come back down, right? The resurrected saints. Let's say grandma's in heaven. Her soul's already gone through the pearly gates and her body's still, I don't know, there's still a body. It hasn't totally disintegrated. Jesus comes back. Does God say, okay, hey, you're up? And then he shoots her down the chute into her body, which reconstitutes. And then she comes up facing east, and then she flies back up to meet Jesus. No matter how you slice it, the whole story just falls totally apart.
Feels like you would want a teller tube. You just
Right,
drop you drop the soul in there, and it just sucks right down.
All bodies just turn into those little pills that you drop in water, and then there's just a sponge that
and they
like
turn into a sponge,
Yeah.
like a big sponge.
my favorite thing is like, and of course you're gonna like you'd hear something. Well, that's not the point. The point of the story is, and then nobody finishes that sentence.
The point is,
right. They'll be like, "Oh, you're taking it
I
too
have something
literally."
to do.
It's like, okay, then
Yeah.
tell me what it fucking means,
Yeah.
not literally.
Tell me the figurative meaning of,
Right.
of grandma having to look east and then get
Right.
shot back down here in a teller tube,
Well,
because
yeah.
I don't know what the
No,
fuck
no,
that figuratively
just-
means either.
Right. And then that answer is, well, just ignore that part.
Yeah.
Just set that part to the side and pick the parts that make figurative sense, and that's what's true.
That brings up an interesting question, Seth. You were a believer for how many years?
Oh, about 30.
About
I
30.
drifted out of fundamentalism, after about 20 into a kind of, vague disinterest, but I still called myself.
So you're still a Christian. So now,
Yeah.
during your time as a Christian, did you ever encounter non-believers? And did you ever feel like, so for example, I have been around many people in my atheist years, and they pray. And I normally just sit there. I don't do anything. I don't do any cross signing. I don't close my eyes. I don't cross my hands. I just sit and wait for them to be. I'm quiet until they're done. When you were a believer, did that ever have to happen to you? And did you ever feel weird being around non-believers? Did it ever feel like they were just assholes in
Or
some way?
humoring you?
I just didn't have a lot of, here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I mean, you can imagine. I
Oh,
can throw a
yeah,
rock
I
and
guess
I'll hit
that's
3
true.
churches.
Yeah.
It's one of the first, there's 3 questions you're asked when they meet you. What's your name? What do you do for a living? Where do you go to church? It's just normal.
Yeah.
And the non-believer, the out non-believer is such an anomaly, such an aberration that when I was growing up, I don't remember. I think my father's had a brother, my dad's brother, Steve, didn't want any religion in his house. I'm guessing he was an atheist, and we acknowledged it. But, I never had a moment of discomfort because I was always surrounded by affirmation, validation, somebody who looked like me and prayed like me and spoke like me. And we'd have little conversations about what this verse or that verse meant, but there was never any doubt that it was absolutely true.
Right. Yeah.
It's,
I was going to say,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say back in the day, like when I was a young man, like very young, there was a show on TV. I remember like Donahue would have on Out Atheists. That was like, they were like an oddity back in the day, like an absolute oddity.
Now they would be on TLC right after the people that like fuck their cars and
now they're at CPAC. Now Out Atheists are at CPAC. So
yeah. Well,
just the shit ones.
I'd like to. I was going to say Ancient Aliens.
Silverman. He's shit. He's a piece of shit. That's specifically the person I'm talking about. Just so we're not. I don't want to be unclear.
No, it's fine. Okay. All right.
Because he's at CPAC.
Moving on.
Yeah.
I feel I have that check in my spirit, and I feel you in the Lord, my brother. That honestly, that's been a hard thing to watch, man. That particular dumpster fire
meltdown,
hard
it's something else, isn't it?
It's just
something else.
And I think this is one other revelation that I had coming out of religion into atheism. Back when I first walked away from the faith, I was very pissed off. I felt very abandoned. My parents were treating me like some shameful, broken thing. I knew it's cost us most of our relationship. And my father passed away last year, and it was just a really tough time. But in my mind, naively, I thought, well, atheists, they're rationalists, right? They are reasonable people. And, this is a culture of goodness, and we're rooted in the real world. And then you meet more and more atheists, and you realize that we've got our best and worst and everybody in between, like every other tribe or culture or whatever, and it was like, now I'll see somebody and they post that meme. It says atheist, and it's an acronym, and it's like thinking something, and there are all these beautiful accolades. And I'm like, no, atheism means you got right the easiest question in the universe. It does not mean anything else about you.
Right.
I don't know that you're a good person. And in fact, I would take a wonderful, beautiful God believer who shares my values than some atheists who do not.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And, so that's kind of where I've ended up now. I was a rude awakening. Atheism is not a guarantee of goodness or humanism or intelligence, rationality, caring about the world, being a decent human being. Atheism is no guarantee of that. And it's tragic, but it's true.
Yeah. So. Yeah. The book itself, my favorite chapter is the chapter on Easter, because all the things you bring out about Easter, you don't realize as a believer, like when you grow up with it, you're just like, yeah, it's just Easter, like it's Easter. But then when you start naming and you go to great detail to list all the crazy shit about Easter, and it's all fucking crazy. and there's a moment where you realize I believed in a blood god. Like there's a moment where you realize that, and it's weird, but there's so much crazy shit about Easter that most people, especially atheists, don't even understand.
Well, you know what? In the chapter, I was talking about an Easter passion play where they had these young kids and they dressed them up. And I'm like, so in the chapter, all I do is I switch out the method of execution. I'm like, okay, Christians, let's switch out. Let's try this with a noose. Let's put a gallows up, right? Instead of the stage with the Golgotha stage with the crosses. And let's bring a Christ child out. Same story, still Jesus, still an atonement for our sins to cover us, blah, blah, blah. And instead of a cross, let's make it a gallows. And we hang the child, and then we throw him in the tomb, and he comes out. And instead of wounds on his hands and feet, he's got a scar around his neck. And I do a speech where I'm talking about a God. I think in the book I wrote about a God I just made up called Braun, bringer of light. Braun died by guillotine. Right? He's the same God as Jesus, except instead of crucifixion, they cut his head off with a guillotine. So instead of a cross over the baptismal, we have a guillotine. There's guillotines out in the lawn. We have guillotine necklaces and tattoos and stuff. Right?
So funny.
All you got to do is switch out the method of execution, and all of a sudden it becomes immediately apparent how fucked up and bloody and culty and wrong the passion story genuinely is, and how Christianity, no matter how mainstream, remains at its core a blood cult.
And the cross is one of those weird execution methods where you can have a conversation with the person being executed because it takes 4 or 5 days. So you could be like, so how you feeling right now? You know,
I hadn't thought about
in
that.
comparison to because like the other
chatting
other
up
systems,
the victim while he's hanging.
It's
on
hard
the
to have a
cross.
conversation with somebody who's currently being guillotined.
Right.
But
or strangling on a rope.
Having a conversation with someone who's being crucified is perfectly fucking possible. You know what I mean? And that's
Cecil walks under Spartacus. He's like, "Hey, how's it going up there on the cross, pal?
It's funny.
You got a minute?"
It's perfectly possible if you believe the like crazy bullshit of the way that they tell it. But like, if you really walked up to somebody who had nails and shit, and they'd be like, you'd be like, hey, so I've got, they'd be like,
jeez, gee, that's me.
Like you wouldn't be doing anything but screaming in mortal terror.
Well, and also you probably wouldn't even be able to breathe because that essentially suffocates you.
And
That's
shit.
why it's like a weird thing to do.
Well, the word crucifixion is actually part of where we get the word excruciating. I mean, we're talking about the kind of unimaginable pain that people can really, that language really doesn't do justice to. And this idea that we celebrated, I mean, if you like the shape of the cross, the aesthetic of the cross, I get that, right? But if you are wearing it because you feel it as a symbol of beauty and goodness, and the whole reason Jesus had to come and spill his blood was why? I mean, if he's all powerful, he could have simply blinked atonement. He could have forgiven us he can conjure the universe with a breath, but he can't forgive people with a breath, but he has to come and become a super baby because the Holy Spirit knocked up an unwed teenager 2,000 years before the invention of the video camera. We don't even have video of it in the delivery room,
Wouldn't the even easier piece be like, rather than like, oh, I gotta forgive you, just be like, you know what, I'm not actually worried about that shit anymore.
I forgot about it.
Like, because the whole idea is that sin is created, and then you're automatically guilty of it, and now you're on your back foot all the time. So somebody has to forgive you. But you could also just, because we don't treat anyone else in our life like that. We don't treat our kids like that. We don't treat our friends like that. We don't treat our spouses. You could always just be like, yeah, actually, that's not some shit I'm worried about.
Yeah.
And then there's not even anything to forgive. You can skip the whole sin and forgiveness.
There doesn't have to be
phase.
any of that stuff. Yeah.
Right.
When I was talking to a couple of these guests, the Christians at Iowa State University's Q&A a few days ago, I think we got into, I asked the question, is there anything that your child could ever do, ever, no matter how disobedient, no matter how awful, that you would take a pyre full of wood and pour fuel on it, light it, wait till it got to its hottest point, and then throw your child into writhe and scream. And they say, no, there's absolutely no way I would ever consider doing. I mean, obviously, they were justifiably morally outraged at the idea. And of course, the next segue is, how do you justify then your heavenly Father threatening to do the same to you? And boy, the tap dance that happens after that question is truly impressive. We are, he doesn't want to, we choose to go there. I'm sorry. What? We choose to go there. Love me or I'll burn you is kind of, that's a moral thing. All in all.
That's like classic abusive relationship stuff.
So
really
it is so textbook abusive.
Right.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
It's so textbook abusive. It's not even interesting.
That is the one thing, genuinely one of the one things that shook me out of religion so long ago was the concept of hell. Because the concept of hell doesn't make any fucking sense at all.
No.
And when you suddenly stop and just turn just for a half second and pull away and you think, wait, what? What's going to happen now? And how could that possibly be a thing? It just snapped me right out of it. That was the one thing that I remember like as a turning point in believing or whether or not I believed. And it changed my whole perspective on life. Like it really changed everything about it changed everything about me. And it's
funny. It's such an effective mechanism for control.
Yeah.
That and controlling your
really
sexuality.
Is. Yeah.
And I spoke about this. I did a couple of chapters on sex and purity culture. There's a whole section about the nipple. Very proud of that section in the book that just focuses just on the female nipple because American fundy Christians have a real problem with it specifically. And I asked the question in the book, all right, so what if I digitally map a man's nipple over the female nipple and then put those breasts somewhere in front of you? Is that moral? Like, is that a PG or a PG-13? I have questions about it. But the larger idea is that, the church scares you with hell, but also it sort of brands a kind of control on your sexual identity. Well, that's everything. That's who you are, how you think, who you're attracted to, your relationships. Once they've got you in the bedroom, they have you almost every other area of your life. And, the idea that we're taking sex advice from these Bronze Age, Iron Age, patriarchal primitives when men ruled the world, tragically so, it's just pathetic. But once you walk away, just like you walked away from hell theology, all of a sudden you feel that there's so much light, air, and space. There's so much more goodness over here without all the guilt and shame. And you can explore the human condition honestly and without guilt. That's awesome. That's an amazing, liberating moment.
When it's Catholicism, it's even worse, Seth, because you not only have all that baggage, but you also have a celibate guy trying to tell you how to get married, and he spends great detail trying to tell you about relationships that he's never had.
Yeah, right.
There's a whole thing. It's like a whole class I had to take to get married in the Catholic Church. I wasn't a believer at the time, and I had left the Catholic Church, and I've never technically been confirmed, which is like the 12-year-old thing that they do.
Right.
It's like when you're 12 or something, you do a thing. And I never actually technically was. And I was a believer until I was in my 20s. But then once I got married, I wasn't a believer anymore. And we went through this whole pre-Cana thing. And the priest looking at me and trying to tell me that my scores, because you have to take this weird test. It's like an aptitude test with your wife to be, or your partner to be. It's wife because it's the Catholic Church, and then so you're taking it, and he's reading the scores off and saying, well, you guys disagreed here. And it's like, fuck
Get
off.
out of here.
You've never touched a person. Go away. You don't know what it's like to.
You've never legally touched a person.
Yeah, right.
Well, let me ask you this, Cecil. Is it true that in your particular Catholic culture, you just kind of did whatever shit you wanted to do, and then you just went to the confessional to reset?
Yeah. It was very much like that. It was very much like that was, you didn't do horrible shit, but people did stuff that was bad all the time with that idea that there was that was sort of drummed in that like tiny sins are okay. And you tell the priest, which is weird. There's some sort of weird voyeurism that the priest is involved in all that. Very strange. But yeah, that's how it was for me.
Well, because the Catholics, they differentiate the sins into tiers.
Yeah, there's like a tier list. There's an S tier.
Right.
There's like an A tier. Yeah.
There's a class system for sins.
We should do the sin.
We should do the sin tier list. Why didn't we think of that ahead of time?
We're thinking of it now, and that's what counts.
What we're gonna do on a live stream, a sin tier list.
Write it down.
Exactly
I'll be
what we do. Amazing.
I'll sign up for that.
There's I don't like almost all of them are S tier.
Yeah.
Like most of the sins, like they're fucking balls.
All the sins are all S tier.
Yeah.
Seth, what's the name of the book and where can people get it?
It is called Christianity Made Me Talk Like an Idiot. There's a paperback hardcover. There is an audiobook. It's on Kindle. I'm doing signed autographed copies for anybody who wants any for a limited time. Just go to my website, sethandrews.com. There's a link there. And I've actually got some books here. And so I get the notification on those. And I just sign them and personalize them and ship them out the next day. And everybody's been kind. I've sent out quite a few. And if somebody wants one, it's not freaking Hitchens, but I'm proud of it. And I'd like to see,
it's a good
honestly,
book.
what I'd like to see it do is to cast the stuff in mainstream, quote unquote, normal Christianity in a slightly different light. So we begin to acknowledge and communicate about Christianity as to how abnormal, how bizarre, how culty, and often how destructive it really is, and how much better we'd be off without it. And that's my goal. So we'll see if we get there.
I think you would say that it's a very funny book, and it's also very informative. You can pick it up. We're going to have links on the show notes, and this is a video that we recorded, by the way, in a YouTube video, so it will be in the description. We hope Ian will put it in the description. I'm guessing what's going to happen is there'll be a comment there that's like, Ian, where's the book?
And then he'll go back
and then he'll do it. So Seth, thank you so much.
Thanks for helping me get the word out. I feel like I need to write you a commission check. Let me get you my Amex number.
Feel very comfortable with that.
Yeah, we're very comfortable. Yeah. Seth, thanks so much for joining us. And people can find you, of course, at thethinkingatheist.com. Is that correct?
That's correct. And sethandrews.com. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, man.